Hello, hello. How are we doing today? We are here in the Action Lab. My name is Chris. This is Scott, my co-host here. We are ready to roll on a Wednesday. We've made it halfway through the week, Scotty. We're almost there. We're almost made it to the weekend, but we're going to help you get you over the rest of the week with a sweet, probably one of our best shows that we've ever done in our entire lives.
Man, I'm so excited to get into this draft content finally. We've been hyping this NFL draft. I'm out of control with draft. So I love the NFL draft. I can't wait to jump into it. Can't wait to cover that first round for you guys when we get there in just over 2 weeks now. So we're almost there. But yeah, got through the first half of the week. I'm working the weekend, or so I think, although we got winter weather coming in Colorado. So we'll see how that goes for Rockies game this weekend. But as of right now, it's going to be a baseball weekend for me.
I was actually thinking about going to the game on Friday, taking Lauren out and trying to make it out there. And of course, Lauren's not a big fan of cold at all. So she ends up not wanting to go, which totally get. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit colder for the games this week. The Mets are in town, which I usually like to go to at least one Mets game because they only come once a year. So I'll try to make it out. But probably won't make it out this year. Let's see, Deb. Can't hear Scott. Let me see. Let me figure out that. Let me see your mics. Go ahead, Scotty. Can you
Test. It's better when I'm muted, actually.
It is probably better when he's muted. Deb, let me know still if you still can't hear Scott. Trying to fix his audio real quick. He had some microphone issues or headphone issues a little bit earlier, but I could hear him okay. He looks like he's coming through on our mixer. So let me we'll play around with this here and see.
Is there a setting where Deb was able to mute just me?
Maybe. No, I don't think so. Here, hold on one sec. Let me see if I can get this fixed for you here. This is good high quality stuff here, guys. Just so you know. All right, let me see. Let me pull this up here. Bear with me while we check this out. Properties.
I'm just gonna start talking into my mic because no one can hear me except for Chris.
Still no on hearing Scotty.
Anybody at all out there?
Here, let me check.
I can talk louder.
No, you're coming through on mine. You're coming through on my feed here. So I don't know what's going on with that. Okay, we're all good.
Nope. All good. There we go.
All right, Deb, you're scaring us here. You're scaring us. I think we're all set.
What you missed, Deb, is that I was talking about you being my favorite person in the world. That's basically how I was opening the show. Sorry you missed it.
Oh, just barely missed out there. All right. Back on track. So welcome one and all to the show here tonight. And so, yeah, we have a lot to cover here. We're getting this started on our draft preview because we've been hyping this up, Scotty, for a while. We've been getting this rolling, and you know, behind the scenes, kind of putting together some fun things for you guys. But we wanted to get a little bit of a preview, right? Because we're going to be diving in draft day with a bunch of content. But I mean, if you don't know who you're looking for and who to, you know, keep your eye on, then maybe it's maybe it's something we should probably do, which we're doing tonight. We're starting off our series of position rankings. We're going top 5 quarterbacks and cornerbacks for this. So we're going to be diving in to see who's going to be the top players in each position, where we think they can possibly go and get drafted, and you know, obviously it's going to be that much more hype when we get to our draft special at that point. So we're excited to dive into that. It's going to be super fun for us to start talking about some of these names, because I'm not going to lie, you know, I know like a handful of these names, but you know, it's still going to be nice to go through and kind of take a deep dive into what, you know, their talents are when it comes to, you know, quarterbacks, throwing the ball, pocket passer, out of the pocket, you know, throwing the ball. I mean, it's going to be fun to break these guys down. So we're going to have fun with that. But first, we want to dive into our news rundown. Now, Scotty, we have, you know, just a short news rundown because we're going to be going into our draft preview. But it's not going to be pretty on this first topic here. It's not going to be fun. It's
the whole reason my background is blue. I'm just sad.
Bubble Murray is popped. This is a rough one. Now, I was hyped on Monday night to watch the Nuggets because we don't always get the channels here, but watching them on live television when it comes to you know, the national broadcast, you always get hyped up, right? I mean, I was excited to really see what the Nuggets could do. I mean, and they were playing against Golden State, which, you know, Golden State hasn't been like the best team. They're still, you know, they still have Steph Curry, right? Steph Curry put up 53 points. He is unbelievable. He's the best shooter in the NBA. He's the best shooter of all time. So we saw him put on a show. So that was just one of the aspects, but that wasn't the biggest aspect. By the way, he ended up passing Wilt Chamberlain for most points on the Warriors franchise list. So big ups to him. Congratulations to him. He's just insane to watch play.
The greatest shooter of all time. So
yeah,
that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, he hits shots that I've never like. You actually question when he misses a shot. Like, wait, he missed? He doesn't miss often.
That's how I remember my childhood when I was, just on outside of my hoop in the driveway or whatever. I don't think I ever missed a shot, so I was a lot like Curry then. Things have dropped off quite a bit since then.
That hasn't exactly carried over to your professional career.
No, or even my just Y career at this point. Like, it's just nothing's working out. Nothing goes in. I still think once I cross half court, I'm open, and it doesn't seem to work out very well.
It's not great. But that's not the biggest storyline coming out of this game. The biggest storyline coming out of this game was the fact that with 50 seconds left in the game, Jamal Murray ends up tearing his ACL, going for a lay-in in a 2 or 3 different Warriors players. Didn't really have a lot of contact, but you could just see when his knee gave loose that it wasn't pretty. It was mainly a non-contact injury, and anytime there's a non-contact injury, you either think of the worst. It's either torn ACL or Achilles or something along those lines. And when this happened, he was holding my breath, right? And you knew it was bad by the way he gripped his knee, and he was just bouncing on his hand off the court in pain and holding it so tight in his hands, like he was just in so much pain. And it ends up being just as bad as I thought it was going to be, a torn ACL. So he is out indefinitely. He is out pretty much for the year, if not more. Now, keep in mind, if the NBA season starts on time next year, he's going to miss a big majority of that time as well. Now, we're still trying to figure out, when the NBA, because that was another aspect of this that, has kind of popped up in different headlines, was the fact that the short season has been causing some of these potential injuries that have been popping up over the course of the season for not just Jamal Murray, but a few different players. And so, that's just one of those things. I mean, you had LeBron, you have AD out, some top players that have had issues with injuries. But, leading into this game, Jamal Murray missed 4 games for knee soreness in his opposite knee. So I don't know if there's some compensation things going on when it comes to his training regimen and how his athletic trainer was pushing him through this. But, it was just a rough go when it came to hearing the news. Now the Nuggets were potentially one of the teams that were going to be in the mix for the NBA championship. They had those aspirations going into this game. They just traded for Aaron Gordon. They had their starting lineup almost pretty much set in a sense. They were locking in that whole starting 5 with a really one of the most talented starting 5s in the Western Conference, and that's saying something given the Western Conference is so stacked. But at this point, you saw this take its toll on all of the odds in Vegas. You saw all the teams in the Western Conference move up in their chances, and you saw the Nuggets take a big step back in their chances of winning the championship quite substantially. So, Scotty, what do you make of this? What do you think? What was your first reaction, and how did you feel that next day when you heard this news?
I mean, I saw him go down. I'm going to be honest. I had stopped watching the game after that third quarter. I don't think I could watch anymore. We were up at half, and all of a sudden we got outscored by it seemed like 100 in the third. So I saw the news right out. I got a notification on my phone, watched the play, didn't look good. I texted you early that next morning. My Twitter guy, Pro Football Doc, that I just trust for injuries galore. He was a former trainer for the Chargers back in the day when they were in San Diego, and he always just assesses injuries based off of just watching the play, and he's almost always right. And he said that to me is a torn ACL. I texted you that. It's devastating. I mean, the Nuggets their playoff hopes are crushed at this point. There's no avenue they can go at this point. Like their backcourt, their starting backcourt likely to be in the playoffs is Monte Morris and Will Barton. Like that might be the worst backcourt in the NBA.
Well,
it's not good.
Think about this, right? You have the likes of Chris Paul, Donovan Mitchell, Connolly on the same team, Schroeder, Rondo, Lillard. Like those are some big names.
Devin Booker.
Devin Booker.
Phoenix.
Yeah. You have some big names that are just. I mean, look at what happened in this game with Steph Curry. We couldn't guard the point guard. Well, I mean, obviously he's special, right? He's obviously a step ahead of a lot of guys. But I mean, Lillard and a solid leader in Rondo, Chris Paul. I mean, having Monte Morris and Facu come in and compete against those guys, it's not going to be pretty. And if we couldn't guard, even with Jamal Murray, and Jamal Murray's taken a step ahead when it came to his defense this year. He's definitely played a lot better defense this year than he has in his previous career. I mean, he's been priding himself on getting better each year in defense. And he couldn't even, limit some of these players, especially like Steph Curry. No one can, obviously. But, man, what are we going to do with Monte Morris and Facu? It's going to be tough, man.
Facu's not exactly a guy who can cover or hit shots. Like, we are going to be totally reliant on our front court.
Absolutely.
MPJ, Aaron Gordon, and, of course, Joker are going to have to just carry the load. Like, now, Aaron Gordon came in and thought he was going to be a role player. Can't be a role player now. Like, we don't have enough on offense where he can sit back. Like, I don't know how great he is as someone who's a league guy. Like, maybe it doesn't work out, but, like, we have nothing to lose at this point. So, I mean, you're looking at Murray. Murray, in the course of 3 games in the playoffs against Utah last year, put up 50, then 42, and then 50 again. Like, you don't replace that. You don't replace that. In Game 7 against the Clippers, he put up a 40 spot. Like, he was ridiculous in the playoffs last year. He even played, for the most part against the Lakers. He played pretty damn well. Had a game of 32, 28, 25 in that 5-game series. So he played phenomenal in the playoffs last year. We needed Bubble Murray. Like, that 2-man game in the second half of the fourth quarter is pretty much our bread and butter when in tight games down the stretches. Murray and Joker in a pick and roll type offense, and it's usually incredibly successful, especially when Murray's hitting shots and being the guy we know he can be. So without him, the only silver lining is not team success, because team success at this point this year is out the window. Every goal they hope to get, they're not going to get, which is unfortunate. It literally, earlier that day, I'd read an article where they had basically said there's 8 elite teams that have completely separated themselves from the NBA at this point. 3 top teams in the East being Philly, Brooklyn, and Milwaukee, and then 5 in the West with Utah, Phoenix, both LA teams, and then Denver. Denver's out now. Like, Denver's out. The only silver lining, as I mentioned, is now we get MPJ gets to be the number 2 guy. Like, MPJ gets to take a even bigger role on offense. We're going to find out exactly who this guy is. Let's see if he can just be the dominant player we think he can be. He's played really well this year. Nothing against how he's done, but now he's going to have to take on a little more. So hopefully what that means is there's growth there for him. So by the time Murray's back next year, we have 3 players that are elite with an Aaron Gordon who's going to be really solid, and then Will Barton, who I don't think highly of.
Well, think about this. Murray's bubble playoffs he's 24 points, 6 assists, 4.4 rebounds, and just, pretty good. The last 2 months, 23 and almost 24 points, so 23.7 points, 5.1 assists, 4.1 rebounds. He was practically shooting exactly the same over the last 2 months that he was in the bubble. And that's absolutely brutal to see. Like, I'm seeing all these stats, as far as the Nuggets playoffs odds, right away, they dropped 59% to win a round to 41%, 21% to make it to the conference finals to 10%, 9% to win make it to the finals down to 3%, and obviously 4% down to 1. I mean, obviously there's a lot of class in the Western Conference and even the Eastern Conference. So this actually reminded me a lot of that the flashback from Gallinari when we were playing and we were in the 3rd spot, I believe. And just as we were getting into the playoffs, or as we were like, the 3rd best record, top 5 offense, near the top 10 in defense. They had a profile of a bona fide championship contender at that time. And then the Mavericks game, Danilo Gallinari, just like Murray, just 24 years old, 2nd leading scorer on the team, ended up having a knee injury, and it pretty much just devastated the chances for the Nuggets to do anything that year into the playoffs. They just they couldn't get anything going. This was very reminiscent of that, where you just get so deflated on one of your best players. Now, keep in mind, and I saw Shaq talk about this. I saw Stephen A. Smith on ESPN talk about this. They're not exactly counting out the Nuggets, and I kind of agree. I don't think they have the team to compete, especially if they play the Lakers in the first round. It's just not pretty, and that's kind of what it's slating to be. But as far as that goes, it's going to be a little tougher to get through. Now, there's going to be other players that are going to need to eat, right? Other players that are going to be able to get their shots up, and I think Michael Porter. As far as this goes, Aaron Gordon has been a role player. He can't be a role player. Scotty, are you still there?
I am still here.
You're frozen. You're frozen a little bit here, but I wanted to make sure you weren't glazing over with me talking here.
I'm moving, but I can see as well that I am not moving on that camera, and it's kind of freaking me out a little bit.
You're just frozen, and hey, I don't know what's the deal here, but here, let me.
That's how strongly I took this Murray injury, because I can't even move at this point.
Let me get you fixed here. Let's see if we can get you fixed, because I don't know what's going on here.
This has been our best show ever, everyone.
Best show ever. What did we tell you guys? It's going to be the best show ever. Let's see.
Better can't see me, so that's good.
I think I lost you, buddy. I think I lost you. Let's see. Here, let's bring you back here. Let's hang up our connection here, and then let's bring you back. Sorry for the technical difficulties, folks. We are getting a little bit. All right, we're back. We're back.
Moving.
We're moving. You're not frozen anymore. But yes, that's what. Yeah, you were with me that whole time. So now, as far as that goes, I mean, I know this was also, reminiscent of that lockout season when there was a lot of injuries. Derrick Rose, some big time names, dropped off in that season as well. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. Josh Hart tweeted about this: too many players getting hurt with the shortened season. Do you think that has a factor, or do you think this is something that just a freak thing?
I mean, to me, this is. I don't know that there's been a ton more injuries this year. Like, this is the single biggest injury in the NBA to date this year. Obviously, LeBron's been out, AD's been out. I get those; are big losses, but.
Kevin Durant, Wiseman, Gordon Hayward, Victor Oladipo.
All those guys are going to be back, is my thing. Like, they're going to be back for the postseason.
Yeah.
All of them, I think. So this is the one that hurts the most. There's injuries every year. I don't know if it's been worse this year necessarily, in my opinion. It seems like he was just favoring that other leg and probably put too much pressure on his other knee, and it just went out, and it sucks that it was with 50 seconds to go in a game. They were down 7, so probably not going to be able to win. It hurts. It hurts a lot, but things like this happen. Sucks that it's happened to our Nuggets, who, obviously have never won an NBA championship, and this is one of the best teams they've ever had, in my opinion, on paper at least, in a run to the playoffs. So hopefully he'll be able to get back next year and at some point be at full strength. Although a lot of times it takes an additional season to really get back to who you are, especially in basketball, where that athleticism and the movement on the knee it's got to be a full go, and sometimes it takes even another year. So he may not be back to the player we know even next season, even when he does come back. So hopefully he will be. But we'll have to see. It sucks.
Yeah. So as far as what's next, it looks like Monte Morris is going to slot in. He's averaging right now 11.6 points, 48.1% shooting to go with 4.2 assists and 0.8 turnovers. I mean, that's the one thing with Monte Morris. He doesn't turn over the ball, so that's a good thing to look forward to. Denver has, as far as, with him playing a big role, I can't even remember the stat. I think he's been playing a little bit less since, obviously we've made the Aaron Gordon trade. I mean, he hasn't really exactly had a big sample size, but I think there's some optimism in what he can bring as far as just controlling the pace. Again, he's not going to be taking all the shots. We're going to need, Michael Porter Jr. to really step up his game. We're going to need Aaron Gordon to really start being the Aaron Gordon that he was in Orlando when, he was still, one of their leading scorers over there. And Jokic. I mean, Jokic has, we've talked a little bit about this where, down games for Jokic or up games for Murray, because Murray's, just taking that load off of Jokic, and, he's going to have more to put out there. Now, I've also seen a couple names floating around as far as who we could pick up to plug in. I don't think any of those players are going to actually play for us, really. Austin Rivers is a name that's kind of surfaced. I don't know if I'm super excited. No, I'm not excited about anybody they can bring in.
I think that one's pretty much a done deal. That's who it's going to be.
Is he actually? Yeah, I've seen
who they're picking up. It's going to.
Yeah.
I got a notification just before the show that was like they're nearing a deal with Austin Rivers to join the team. So Austin Rivers it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, Austin Rivers, he's played plenty in the league. So, I mean, I don't expect a lot from him. I don't think he's going to necessarily be, a stopgap, because you can't be a stopgap for a guy like Jamal Murray. He's like a Jamal Murray with a lot of guys in the NBA. So, it's going to be interesting to see how he slots in. I saw like Troy Daniels and some of those other names pop up as well, which, of that list, I think, Rivers is going to be one of the better options there. So we'll see how that ends up rolling. We'll see. Actually, the Nuggets just tipped off with Miami here just now. So as far as that goes, we are just, going to see what the new Nuggets look like here for now. So we'll keep you posted on all that and see what looks
2-0 lead. They're on fire.
2-0 lead. There we go.
And now it's 2-2. The lead is lost.
So there we have it. So let me go ahead. 1 second here. Sorry, Scotty, you're glitching out on me again. I don't know. It might be your camera. I don't know if it's your camera or what's going on.
Well, I am using a different, as I told you, different computer tonight. I unfortunately left my computer in the office. So I'm trying out on a different camera, so I don't know if that's what's causing the glitch, but
let's see.
Yeah.
Well, we might just have to have you on I don't know. Since you're having trouble with a little bit of your camera here, let's try to get you reset one more time, guys. Just hang with us here while we get this reset, and we will make sure to pop in here with the next segment as we go rolling on through our. Oh, there we go. Boom, you're back. Never mind. We're good.
I'm here. I'm here, guys.
I missed you,
I
man.
almost took a nap right there. So
Yeah.
I wasn't ready to be back on camera. Good thing I wasn't doing anything too weird.
But last thing I want to say about the Nuggets, I don't want to count them out quite yet. I still think they're going to be a tough out. I think I'm not going to expect much. But I don't think, given the talent that we have on this roster, a deep roster, I think we'll still give people trouble. I don't think we're going to go far, but I don't think people are going to people are going to overestimate just what this means. And I think they're going to maybe not give us the credit. But I think that the Denver Nuggets are still going to play hard. They're still going to be a tough out, especially if Michael Porter goes off. If he turns into like a Bubble Murray type thing, hey, who knows? But it's going to be tough.
His problem is he doesn't have the ability of Murray to create his own shot off the dribble. Like, he's not there yet. That's where he needs to progress. I definitely think the Nuggets will play hard. I definitely think they'll have some tight games in the playoffs. But, I mean, of course, it depends on matchups. But they're going to be an underdog in their first series.
Yep, 100%.
Like, right now, they're matched up if playoffs started today with the Lakers. So, just the defending champs to start off with home court advantage. There's that. Well, we'd be the 4 versus their 5, but even if we, that moves, even against, Portland, I think we'd be underdogs.
Can you imagine what Lillard is going to do to us? Oh, man.
I think against Dallas, we'd be underdogs, and then maybe we'd be favorites against the 8 seed, but we're not getting up to the 1 now, so that's kind of irrelevant. So I think we're going to be underdogs no matter what. And we'll just see what they can do.
By the end of the show, we'll have a better stat line and a better box score for a preview of what it's going to look like post-Nuggets. So we're going to visit that before the stream is over and see where we're at. But pray for us. We need it. This sucks. And hey, big prayers up for Jamal Murray and hopefully a fast recovery because we're going to need it for next year. At this point, he might be ready for the playoffs next year. He's going to miss a majority of the season, so
he'll be back before playoffs.
I hope so. I hope the recovery's. Basketball's a weird one. NFL, is kind of, I don't know. Basketball, there's a lot of jumping. There's a lot that you put pressure on your knees a little bit more. I don't know. But hey, we've seen other players come back quick too. So. Who knows? Spencer Dinwiddie is one of those that tore his ACL, and he's saying he can come back within a year before the playoffs here, which would be crazy and insane. So, yeah, we'll see. Mayday, welcome to the chat. Thank you for popping in. We missed you. Yeah, test. You gotta get your testing in, right? Make sure you're getting those good grades. Better be. So you just missed out on all of our Jamal Murray talk. So we're sad. So just wanted to get you caught up. That's the gist of what our first segment was. First topic. So
we said we were going to move quick through this rundown, but there we are, like 30 minutes in, and just on one topic.
Yeah. Well, when it's about our hometown Nuggets, man, it's hard not to talk. These other topics might probably going to go a little quicker. So NFL voluntary workouts. This is another big thing that's kind of popped up over the course of the last week that is kind of weird, right? So during, the course of this offseason, obviously COVID's been a big thing. But the Denver Broncos, Seattle Seahawks, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Tuesday announced their intentions to skip the workouts, while Detroit Lions and some others, New England Patriots, joined them on Wednesday, earlier today, to not go through this. Now, this has been kind of an issue because, there's NFLPA. It was, they've been kind of going back and forth with this. McManus, a kicker for the Broncos, has kind of been an outspoken person for the it seems like the Broncos are one of the teams that have kind of been leading the charge with a lot of this. So citing COVID-19 positivity rates, Denver surrounding communities, as well as a lack of adequate protocols in place. Sources told ESPN that the players voted to take this action and notified the Denver head coach, Vic Fangio, that the vote had taken place. So, this is kind of already spread to a lot of teams so far this offseason. So, what are your thoughts here, man? Like, this is kind of a weird thing, off-season workouts. Now, this is on the, early end of what's to be a 17 game season. There's a lot of things that are just gearing up for less preseason. But yeah, what are you thinking about these teams taking a little bit of time off to kind of put COVID concerns kind of in the forefront?
It doesn't shock me. I mean, listen, obviously no one did voluntary workouts last year. Those didn't happen for any team when we were in the midst of just full-fledged, quarantining and everyone staying away from each other last year. So, did the product on the field noticeably perform worse because people didn't have their voluntary workouts in like April and May? No. But at the same time, I would have liked to see, teams and players step up and just be like, we can figure this out. Like, there's a lot of things we can do. Part of this, and don't take this the wrong way, but part of this just seems like the players are like, they are voluntary. The word voluntary is in there, but it's just kind of like, yeah, we're good. We don't really want to do this. I don't know that all these players are like, it's because of COVID. Like, I'm sure these players aren't just sitting every day in their homes protecting themselves and their family and not going anywhere. And quite frankly, them within the confines of like a team facility, it's probably safer than what they're doing at home. But this is a reason for them to pull out, to be just, say, hey, I don't really want to do voluntary workouts. And here's an easy way to kind of say, it's not necessary. We don't have to do it. Now, the NFL's kind of come out like today and kind of like broke down now more specifically like what's going to happen with voluntary workouts. Like now there's phase 1. So from April 19th to May 14th for teams that are involved, everything is virtual. So there's no on-field drills, no on-field workouts at all for like the first month plus, or almost month. And then finally, phase 2 starts on May 17th through May 21st, which is still virtual, but you can do some on-the-field stuff. And then May 24th through June 18th will include like the normal 10 days of voluntary OTA workouts and mandatory mini camps. So we'll see what happens once we get to that point in late May. This doesn't surprise me too much. And do I think this is going to hurt these teams that they're not doing it? Not necessarily, but I don't know. I just would have liked the players to step up and be like, let's do this. Let's really focus. Like, Denver's weird because Denver, I saw a thing where they've had the second most players of any team already in the facility working out prior to this moment. So they've had 22. I forget who the first place team had 25, and they were at 22, which is the second most of any team in the NFL. But now they're not comfortable being there. And now it's come out today. I don't know if you heard that next week, Broncos facilities will be administering the vaccine to all the players and their families and wives and whatnot, with the first vaccine at least next week. I think they said they're getting the Pfizer. Probably not the Johnson & Johnson at this point, from what I've heard. So yeah, which is what I got. So that's cool.
Johnson & Johnson, it's been shelved for a little bit, but having some issues with that one. But I mean, you're feeling good.
Yeah, no, I feel fine. And part of me is like, my vaccination card is gonna be like a collector's item because I was one of the few that got the Johnson & Johnson. Like, I'm thinking NBA Top Shot style. Like,
yeah,
I'm one of the few. Maybe at some point I can sell this vaccination card to someone else.
And NFTs, NFTs, man,
big deal. Yep. But anyway, back to voluntary workout. Doesn't shock me, disappoints me a little. Seems like they're just looking for an out, but then again, there's other industries and other workers that have been doing the same thing, in my opinion. So I can't blame the players too much.
Yeah. Don't talk about the Phillies. I got honors, by the way. Hey, congrats, honors. There you go. See, anyone else in chat? Spam some emotes for Mayday, for hitting honors. There you go. Big stuff. Love it. So, anyways, yeah, that's I don't really think. I mean, here's the thing. We're not going to really think too much about this later on down the road, especially when we get to the NFL draft and we get to preseason and we get to the this is all just going to be just a figment of our imagination. Like who cares? Once we actually see them on the field, this is all going to blow over and it's going to be fine. I'm surprised actually they don't have everybody test everybody coat like once it was available for everyone to get 16 and up, I believe, to get COVID tests. I don't know why it's taken like all these athletes. I feel like they usually get the preferential treatment a lot of times anyway, getting all those vaccines and everything early. Like,
I think they're worried about a publicity thing if they got it too early, that there is preferential treatment. Like
maybe
then someone would blow up that, oh, they got the vaccine when before the general public was able to, or this and that. So I think almost sports leagues are being like overprotective to not rush into getting it, as to not look like they're getting that preferential treatment. That's my opinion.
Sure.
I don't know if that's true.
Hey, that might be completely in the realm of possibility. So who knows? But yeah, this will blow over. We're gonna hit the draft here soon, and no one's gonna care about these anymore. It's gonna be a non-story from here on out. But speaking of the NFL, we have a couple. Now, bear with us. The graphics are kind of small here, so just hang tight with us. We're gonna kind of talk through these.
My face out if you want.
Just take you out. But we're going to be talking a little bit about some of the win totals for the NFL. Now, we have some win total lists here. I'll go through some of these, and we'll kind of break these down a little bit. Chiefs come in at the very, very top with 12 wins as the over/under for Vegas. They're the top of the league. The next two are going to be the Bucks at 11.5 wins, Ravens at 11. And then you have 4 tied at 10.5 with the Niners, Bills, Packers, Rams. All these teams look pretty familiar, right? A lot of these teams were in the playoffs this last year. So obviously it's very reminiscent. I mean, if you look at all of these teams, Cowboys are in the 9.5 range. I know we have a big Cowboys following on the stream. They're one of the higher up teams that didn't end up making it to the playoffs this past season. We're looking at, those are the cream of the crop. So it's going to be almost, if you're looking at this, kind of a preview of or a snapshot of what we saw last season with a lot of these teams. Now, the Broncos, from a hometown standpoint, 7.5. I believe last year they were 8.5.
Probably somewhere in the 7.5, 8 range.
Yeah, it was somewhere in that range. So Broncos, they're not going to be necessarily anywhere. And then for, I'm sorry, your Philadelphia Eagles, Mayday, 6.5. 6.5. So sorry about your Philadelphia Eagles. They're a little bit lower on that list. But boo Cowgirls. Okay, all right. So. But that's acceptable. I mean, it's the division, right? Like,
it's not acceptable. Mayday. Cowboys are my NFC team. Chiefs are definitely my number 1, but Cowboys are my number 2.
I think Mayday has an issue with our number 2 teams between the Mets and the Cowboys. For you, yep. You're having trouble with us here, Mayday. Mets.
Where are the Eagles flying to exactly? The cellar, because they're gonna be bad next year.
Oh man, don't let him talk to you like that, Mayday.
Set your goals low,
but
and then maybe you'll be pleasantly surprised.
He's got the over though. He's got the over. So over 6.5.
6.5. I probably just wouldn't touch it.
Yeah,
they feel like a 6 or 7 win team to me, honestly.
Yeah. Are there any on this list that kind of surprise you when it comes to what they're slated for their win totals?
First of all, my Chiefs. I would I'm gonna sound like a homer, but I would bet the over. I really would. Andy in his career is 17-5 and getting the over in his career, and he's been one on the over every year as the Chiefs head coach. 12 wins seems like the floor. Like literally, the Chiefs are going to get 12 wins unless Mahomes gets hurt. So if Mahomes stays healthy and plays, and keep in mind, everyone, this is on a 17-game schedule. Okay, so you don't think of this in the normal terms. Like this is that means the Chiefs going 12-5. I don't see any way they don't go 12-5. Like, so the worst case scenario, you're pushing there. A couple that are surprising. I feel like, as I move through this, I just reminded myself that it was a 17-game schedule. So when I looked at this earlier, I was in my mind, I was thinking 16 games. So now I'm trying to like evaluate at the same time of being like, oh yeah, it's 17 games next year. Which makes the Texans 4.5 at the bottom just pathetic. Like you can't get to 5 wins potentially.
You would take the under on 4.5 there, right?
I would not bet that, but yes.
Yes. I think I would have him at 4, maybe. I don't know. I don't see him getting to 5.
Bengals at 6.5. I kind of like the over on that. I think Burrow's going to be back. I think Burrow's legit. They're going to help him out with some offensive linemen. Or I think they definitely go O-line or wide receiver or tight end with their first pick at number 5. I think they're at in this year. The Chargers at 9. It seems like a lot of Justin Herbert hype. Well, he's really, really good, but they were nowhere near 9 wins last year. So we'll see on that.
You know one that I was looking at.
The Packers seem really low for 10.5. You're telling me they can't go 11-6?
Yeah, you may be right there. That was one. There's 2 that I was looking at. The Packers was 1, 10.5. I thought the Niners at 10.5, given their quarterback kind of question marks on what they're doing with their potential young quarterback and how that's gonna 10.5 for the 49ers in a division along with the Rams. The Rams got better. I mean, the Seahawks are always, they could be competitive. They're 9.5 here on this list. I don't know. I think the 49ers might be a little bit high on this. I would lean under for the 49ers given their quarterback issues.
Love the Cowboys over, obviously. I think the Cowboys can get to like 10-7 if Dak stays healthy and they can improve the defense a little bit. The Patriots, I've heard a lot of things where the Patriots might be moving up for a quarterback. Maybe not a guy that, depending on who they get, that starts right away, but they're at 9 wins. Like all that means they just have to go 9-8. I think they could do it. They're getting a lot of guys that opted out last year due to COVID especially on defense back. Obviously, Edelman retired this week. We're not even bringing up the whole argument that's been popular this week with Edelman. Is he a Hall of Famer?
Yeah.
And I don't even want to talk about it because I'll answer it right now. No, Edelman is not a Hall of Famer. And to even insinuate that Edelman is a Hall of Famer is embarrassing for the Hall of Famers, like in my opinion. So we don't even have to address that. Edelman's not a Hall of Famer. If he gets into the Hall of Fame, that's a joke in my opinion. Nothing against him. He was a really solid player, really solid slot receiver, obviously, and won a lot of big games and showed up in playoff games. But man, his stats don't even touch a lot of other players that aren't in the Hall of Fame to this point that are former wide receivers. So that thing should be just done and out right now. He's not a Hall of Famer. But win total wise, everything seems pretty appropriate to me. I talked about the Packers. I really feel like that's weirdly low. I feel like the Bills at 10.5 is pretty low. Like all they have to do is go 11-6. I feel like the Bills should go 11-6. Colts at 10. They have wins. Actually, never mind. I'm not touching that.
Manning Fresh. Thank you for the follow.
Yeah, appreciate it. Hey, how we doing tonight? We're doing good. How are you doing, Manning Fresh?
Appreciate the follow. Thanks for jumping in. Thanks for joining the Lab Rats. Appreciate it. How you doing tonight? Hey, let's hop into the conversation. Where are you at? Who's your team? So we can see what their win totals are. So yeah, you got
Is that a Peyton Manning or an Eli?
Peyton or Eli? Hey, one's better than the other. Vikings. Okay, nice. So, we haven't even touched on the Vikings yet. Vikings right here slotted at 8.5 for the over. 8.5 for their win total here. I don't know. I could see the Vikings getting a little over that 8.5. I think that they're kind of one of those under the radar teams. I feel that doesn't necessarily. I don't know. I think that's a fair number for them for sure. But I think they could possibly get that over.
Their defense has to play a little better, I think, than they were able to last year. They lost a lot of pieces going into the last year on the defensive side of the ball, which left them out of the playoffs like they'd been the prior years. Their offense is still talented. Obviously, they had Jefferson was a standout rookie wide receiver last year, just a stud they got. Obviously, yeah, running back, you're set to go. Kirk Cousins is always, Kirk Cousins. Week to week, he's really good some weeks, and some weeks you're like, what happened to the guy that was really good last week? So, I know they lost Riley Rife on their offensive line, Riley Reef, or however you say that, but they should be fine on the offensive line. I like their offense. Their defense is young. If they can mature and progress a little, I like Minnesota to hit the over on that.
Do you see Minnesota as a potential playoff team that squeaks in, maybe a wild card?
For sure. Uphill climb to win their division, obviously, with the Packers, but the other two teams in that division with Bears and Lions have QB issues, to say the least. So
Absolutely.
I think the Vikings should be the second best team in that NFC North. So
yeah, and eventually, who knows where we're at with the COVID and getting people back in the stands, but I mean that's a hell of a home field advantage too. Minnesota's got a great venue there, so yeah, absolutely. I think that's in the realm of possibility. Yeah, Scotty, you've been getting blown up. So as far as Mayday goes, he's ignored me and how you've ignored some of his.
What is the Eagles? You haven't made an Eagles argument. You just said they're going to hit the over. Tell me what the Eagles argument is for them winning games, because most people think they're a mess right now, and I tend to agree. But if you can bring up an argument, I'm more than happy to talk about it. You just said fly Eagles fly, and they're going to hit the over, which is not quite an argument. Yeah, Pat Peterson added to the secondary. That'll be nice. He's not quite the guy he was in his prime, Manning Fresh, but he's actually, at least like a, presence that can provide like some leadership and some tips for some of the younger team guys on that defense. So he's a nice piece for sure.
Man, we got a lot of these NFC teams in the chat tonight. Where are all our Cowboys? I know typically we have a few Cowboys crew coming in and watching the stream as well. Man, this would be a fun little conversation. We got the Vikings, we got the Eagles, get the Cowboys mixed in. Man, our Cowboys fans are dropping. They're dropping the ball.
Nothing like a heated NFL argument in April.
That just shows you how much more we need football right now. We need it in our veins. They're just. Oh man, but yeah. So we're gonna see how these end up playing out. But again, yeah, I don't think there's any major surprises outside of maybe a couple low balls here. But yeah, that's what was released this past week. So place your wagers if you think that your team is either underrated or overrated. Put some money down while you can before things kind of change. So yeah, we'll see. Let's see. Mayday. Go for it.
Cowboys won't make a NFC ship in the next 5 years. That could be true. I mean, it's not an outlandish statement, but you know who else won't? The Eagles. That's obvious. Zeke hoping they don't fumble the ball, Manning. Yeah, it was infuriating watch Zeke just drop the football. I wish beyond belief that they never gave the contract they did to Zeke, but he's on the books for, like, they can't get out of it for like the next 2 seasons. So he's there. Like, it doesn't they if they can cut him, but they'd lose money. So he's there for the next 2 years. Hopefully he can figure it out a little. I thought he was always kind of a product of a dominant offensive line, although on the second level he's a beast and it's hard to tackle. He just has to make it to the second level and not fumble the football. That'd be great.
Yeah. Manning, Cowboys better draft Patrick Surtain the second. Yeah, we're going to be touching on that here in a bit. So just hold tight. We're going to be covering quarterbacks and corners here shortly after we get to our last little section here, or last little A-Rod tidbit here. Now, if you're a Minnesota fan, well, this is perfect segue to our next little segment here. So we have a new owner coming up for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and that is Alex Rodriguez. Now, Alex Rodriguez, he's jumped in with a partner here, and Mark Lohr is nearing him. They're both going to be taking over this team. Minnesota Timberwolves have been kind of up for sale and kind of back and forth with who was going to take him on. Kevin Garnett was actually in the mix for a little bit, and ended up getting ousted, and he was kind of upset about it. Went to Twitter, went to some of the social media. But as far as this goes, they'll take control of the team for 2 years, or Taylor, the current owner, will continue to take full control of the team for 2 years before Alex and Lohr take over in 2023. A funny tidbit about this is when the nice young star player for
Number one pick
was asked about, hey, how do you feel about Alex Rodriguez coming in and being your new owner for your team? He was like, wait, who is this? This is Anthony Edwards, by the way. Sorry, I didn't mention that. Anthony Edwards was like, I don't know who that is. I don't really watch or play baseball, which he lied, because there was a previous podcast that he did like 2 years ago where he was like, I played baseball all through my youth, and I could have been a pitcher in the Major League Baseball or center fielder or whatever. So I think he's bullshitting a little bit on this one. But how do you think A-Rod feels? Your nice young star, number 1 overall pick, draft player that you're going to be inheriting, doesn't even know who you are. I mean, everyone knows A-Rod. I mean, if you know J-Lo, you know A-Rod, right? Because J-Lo, obviously they broke up or something. I think that was a thing.
No, newsflash, they're back together. That was going to be this is the second biggest news story of A-Rod.
Spoiler alert. Here we go. I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the breakup heard around the world, A-Rod and J-Lo, but no, what I've heard recently is, because this is big news for me. It's not big news for me. I don't even know how I heard it, but then I had to look it up before getting on the show tonight when we were talking this. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I heard that they're back together. So I had to Google it. I'm like, they are back together, supposedly. So that's probably the only reason he can afford to own the team. No, I'm just kidding. A-Rod has a lot of money, but ownership of a baseball team isn't exactly cheap. So super funny though that Anthony Edwards comes out, number 1 pick in the draft, stud rookie for them. That he's like, I don't know who that is. Minnesota Timberwolves, one of the bottom NBA franchises as far as value, as far as like, I mean, they're not sexy, right? Like, even when Kevin Garnett played for him, they were kind of just like a small market, kind of this and that. But A-Rod brings some flash to it for sure. I agree with Manning in the chat saying that KG would have been real nice if he could have got control of the team. That would have been a fun story. I mean, that dude's clearly the best player that's ever played for that franchise. So that would have been cool to see. A-Rod, we'll see. I don't know how involved he'll be or what he knows about basketball, but he likes to be in the limelight for sure. So he'll probably be at games. He'll be in that front row or in the press box or wherever he's going to be in his, owner suite, just chilling and watching some basketball. So yeah, it's good for the NBA. It's good for A-Rod that they get a big name as an owner in there to add on to hopefully help that franchise a little bit, because that's one that hasn't been overly successful through the years.
Yeah, and you got some nice young talent, Carl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards. I mean, there's some good pieces there that they can build around for the long term. Obviously, they're not doing anything right now, which is fine. They're in that rebuilding stage, getting younger and trying to make some moves to build a roster up to be a contender at some point. But yeah, there's some promise there for future Timberwolves years, the teams coming down the stretch with who they can bring to put around those players, because I mean they could be a pretty dirty team. I mean, adding to more in that Western Conference too. I mean, obviously the Western Conference is stacked, so that's always going to be kind of held against them just as much as everyone else in the conference. But as far as this purchase goes, 1.5 billion range, so that's going to be what this is, which I feel like it's a steal, right, Scotty?
Sure, why not? I mean, in every franchise, if you can own a franchise, it's going to go up and up and up. So
yeah, no,
NBA, Major League Baseball, NFL for sure, obviously. So
yep.
Being an owner, it pays to be an owner.
One other little tidbit that I thought was interesting, people were starting to ask if whether or not they would potentially try to move the team to Seattle, because I know Seattle's been kind of mentioned, and there was a couple people, reporters that were in the mix with this, and as of right now, there's no intention to move to Seattle. I know Seattle's begging for a team, which was a big mistake for them to. It was really sad when Seattle lost their team, but that's a whole nother story. But that's what we're looking at.
I agree. I think Oklahoma City's done a good job with that franchise, but Seattle shouldn't have lost that franchise either. So
yeah,
hopefully they'll get one back at some point, whether it's a team moving there or a new franchise that starts up there if they expand. Mayday in the chat. A-Rod has a centimeter down there from how many steroids he's taken. So maybe that's why he chose a cold place like Minnesota, so he can just blame it on shrinkage due to the cold. Yeah, we delved in way too much than I wanted to there. So.
we went a little deep there. Went a little deep, but moving on. That's a perfect set. No, it's not a perfect segue. It's not a segue at all. So that's where we're at. Thank you for sticking with us for our news rundown. All the top stories across the country. And we'll bring that to you every Wednesday here on the Action Lab to make sure that you are up to date with everything going on in the top stories in NHL, MLB, NBA, and NFL. So now we have something that we're really excited about. We are shifting gears, and we're starting to get ready and rolling for the NFL draft. And how we can't do an NFL draft special, which is coming up, by the way. We're going to be doing the big special, extended time, extended hours, maybe, who knows, depending on how long we end up streaming for. But we are going to be making sure that you are up to date with all the information on the top picks in the first round, especially the cornerbacks, quarterbacks, defensive ends, top to bottom. We're going to be covering as many as we can between now and draft day, so that when we do hit our draft special and we're with you live every single pick, you can be well informed on who these people and who these players are. Now, we're going to touch on the quarterbacks first here. So let's dive in, Scotty. We're ranking the top 5 quarterbacks first in the draft. Now we're going to go and see, there's been a lot of movement. This is going to be, a big quarterback draft, especially in the first 10 picks. A lot can happen. There's a lot. I mean, there's potentially a lot of movement potentially with some teams trading up to get where they need to get with quarterbacks. We've already seen the San Francisco 49ers try to make some moves and work their way up the draft line here to draft a special quarterback here. But we're going to be ranking our top quarterbacks first. And right off the bat here, we have Mac Jones from Alabama at the number 5 spot. So tell us a little bit about Mac Jones and what he brings to the table as the number 5 quarterback on your list.
Yeah, obviously, Mac Jones won a national championship this year, and his only year starting at Alabama. Obviously, Tua was there before. He's a rhythm passer. When he has a clean pocket and he can set his feet, he can deliver the ball really, really well to all 3 levels: short, intermediate, and deep. Obviously, he was working with a lot of talent at Alabama, both on every position on his offense, so that protected him a little bit. But he's a great thrower of the football. Both wide receivers in this draft that are first round picks from Alabama have both said, including the Heisman Trophy winner, have said, hey, been interviewed and said, hey, if you had to pick between Mac Jones or Tua, who would you prefer? And they both said Mac. So there's something to that. I rank Mac, and we've ranked Mac at 5, simply because he doesn't have the athletic profile of these guys ahead of him. He's not a guy who's gonna be able to perform off platform or outside the pocket. He needs structure. He needs a good clean pocket. Anything outside of structure and outside of pocket, like, he's not fluid. He's not quick. He's not fast. And the same could be said for Tom Brady, right? So maybe he'll have great success, but Tom Brady's pretty much an outlier. So the reason I rank him at 5, which is nothing against, like, these 5 guys are gonna go in the top half of the first round. I'd be very surprised if we reach pick 17 and Mac Jones hasn't been picked, along with 4 other quarterbacks. So all these guys are really good. Mac Jones had a phenomenal season, but he was thrown to the Heisman Trophy winner and Devontae Smith. Jalen Waddle, who's the other first round wide receiver, he threw to for 5 games before Jalen Waddle got hurt. So, and he had an incredible offensive line. He had 2 offensive linemen that are borderline first round picks. So he had a lot of talent around him. He's just not the athlete that I would prefer to run an offense around. There's been a lot of rumors that San Fran, moving up to the 3rd round pick, might be in on Mac Jones. I would be I'd be surprised if that was the case. I think you don't move to 3 to get Mac Jones. Like, Mac Jones is a solid player, but he's not a difference maker. He's not like an athlete that can just perform off script and do a lot of things that teams are now looking for in the NFL. If this was 1995, like I saw a player comp on Mac Jones of Eli Manning, and that's phenomenal. Like, Eli Manning is obviously a potential Hall of Famer, won 2 Super Bowls. That's just not where the NFL is trending right now. Like, you want a quarterback that's also an athlete that can extend plays, and Mac Jones won't provide that for you. But as a thrower of the football, when everything's clean in the pocket and everything works out, he's actually better probably at some of those things than some of these guys ahead of him. But when you put in the whole package, he's just not quite there.
Yeah, and as far as against man coverage last season, he averaged 12.6 yards per attempt and recorded a 1.8% completion percentage, both tops in college football, according to Pro Football Focus. So, he does have some talent to get the ball down the field. And that's the thing, right? Because a lot of these top quarterbacks in the draft and a lot of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, the trend is to get more of those athletic quarterbacks that could throw on the run, kind of that Patrick Mahomes mold, right? See, I said it for you. You didn't have to say Patrick Mahomes.
I'm saving it for later.
He's saving it for later. So as far as that goes, that's kind of, I think why he's maybe more towards the bottom end of this is just like you mentioned, just you have some questions with some of the mobility and some of what he can do, but there's no question that he can definitely complete some balls downfield. He also charted in with 15 touchdown passes, best completion against zone defenses, 79.3%. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like with Mac Jones. So as far as this goes, where do you see a good fit with somebody in that top 10 that could be really he can slot in and be kind of fit within that system of whoever's needing a quarterback?
What I see is, it wouldn't shock me if the New England Patriots moved up a little bit to ensure that they get Mac Jones. He seems like a really good fit. I mentioned Tom Brady. They're similar in styles a little bit. So Belichick knows what to work with there. He's not Tom Brady. I'm not saying that at all. But I could see a New England fit for sure. A Belichick and New England fit.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I think, I've seen some people say, the Broncos might be in the mix for Mac Jones potentially. I don't know how good of a fit that would be. I mean, obviously, the defense in Denver is supposed to be, top potentially a top 10 defense. And, as far as solid pass catching, strong a decent running game, I guess. I wouldn't say strong, but decent running game in Denver. I don't know. I could see a little bit of that. But, I honestly, I think I like the fit with New England a little bit better there. Can you imagine just him going to New England under Belichick and being able to advance his career there? Man, that would be...
I wouldn't like it. As a Chiefs fan, I wouldn't like it. I'd be surprised if Denver took Mac Jones, though. From a Denver perspective, I think the two guys you're likely looking at, because I think two guys will be off the board for sure, is Trey Lance and Justin Fields that they might be interested in. Whether those guys are there or not, or whether they move up to get him, we'll see. But I'd be surprised if Denver, it just doesn't seem like they're interested in Mac Jones to me, and it doesn't seem like quite the fit. I think he's a fit with a team like the New England, like I said.
Yeah, no, I think that would be a great fit for them. Great fit for both parties.
And they said he's underrated coming from a Clemson fan.
Yeah.
They didn't end up matching up this year in the national championship game, but Mayday probably loves Justin Fields too because he tore Clemson apart. Is that too soon?
Too soon.
I'm picking on Mayday tonight.
Hey, Mayday, we love you, man. Hey, honors. You got honors. We love you, man. We love you. You can take it though, right? You can take it from Scotty. You just give it right back to him. By the way, breaking news: Carlos Rodon tosses no-hitter for the White Sox in an 8-0 win versus the Indians.
Wow.
So
no-hitter of the year already.
Yeah, allowed a first base runner on hit by pitch with 1 out in the 9th. So, hey, breaking news there. We bring it to you here live on the Action Lab. So, another no-hitter. Boom. Right there. Breaking live. So, let's go to our next quarterback here. Justin Fields. You just alluded to Justin Fields. Now, he was one of those guys that, we saw him in that initial playoff game before he made it to the national championship game. And, man, his toughness was there. He looked, if you just took a snapshot, we talked about this early on a while back on a previous stream when we just were doing our analysis of the Final Four when it came to the NFL playoff. And if you were to take a snapshot of that game, he would probably look like the best quarterback in the country and be a number 1 overall pick. But, he has some question marks as well. There's a reason why we have him at 4 here. What are your thoughts on Justin Fields and what he can do positively and maybe some things that he's got to work on?
Yeah, most people I feel probably have Fields a little higher than 4, maybe 2 or 3. Mostly probably 3. Fields to me, I don't know. He's just underwhelming a little bit on tape to me. He had great moments. Like you said, that Clemson game, he played out of his mind. His deep ball throw is really, really solid. Clearly, he's an elite athlete. He's fast. He's physical. He's, brings a lot of physical traits to the quarterback position where a Mac Jones maybe doesn't. His accuracy is pretty good. Question marks are, his vision, progressing to the second, third, fourth reads, which has been debunked a little bit, but it's still been there. And more so than that, he's right now, and maybe this can be coached up. Like this should be able to be coached up. He's not great at reading defenses as far as blitz coverage and getting rid of the ball or throwing to a hot route in situations where he just needs to get rid of the ball. He holds onto the ball too long. He was on an elite team in Ohio State where he was comfortable doing that because he thinks he has better players on the offensive line, right? Obviously, he originally went to Georgia. Never got the starting job there. He was like the number 1 recruit in the nation. Lost out to, I'm forgetting who it was, the guy that got drafted later in the draft by the Colts last year. Never beat him out. I don't know. For me, Fields doesn't. His ceiling, like I've heard comps to like Justin Herbert, so maybe he'll surprise me like that. Like if he's a Justin Herbert, that's a great thing to be comp to. I've heard comps of Dak Prescott. That would be phenomenal as well. I don't know that I see it. I see slightly, there's just a lot of his game he needs to work on. but as an athlete and a thrower, he's pretty accurate. He shows good touch on all levels. He has the ability and he makes those plays from time to time. The consistency for me isn't there. I watched, his game against Indiana in a big game, and they dominated the first half, and then they sleptwalked through the second half, and he looked like a different player. And then I watched him, obviously, against Clemson dominate, and then against Alabama struggle. Now, I think he was probably hurt in that game because he just didn't look right. But for me, the reason he's at 4 is his ceiling isn't quite as high as the guys above him, in my opinion. His floor might be higher than at least the guy at 3, but his ceiling isn't quite there for me. But that doesn't mean he can't be a really, really good quarterback in the league, because I think he can be.
Yeah, I mean, he's all over the place a little bit. So again, he can have some amazing games, and then there are some games that you have a snapshot of that maybe he's not necessarily, what you would expect. And so that's the thing. I mean, you can't question his toughness, because in that game, I mean, he was hurt. He was doing everything he could in that Clemson game, and he was just absolutely just on. If you get that player from that Clemson performance every single day in the NFL, you're ecstatic with what you're getting. Over the past 2 seasons, he was the top performing quarterback from a clean pocket, recording a 54-4 touchdown to interception ratio. So, I mean, when he's on and he can be fire. That's for sure. Clean pocket performance is it helps the ceiling a little bit, but when a quarterback isn't facing pressure, body mechanics, there are some things that go into some of the other scenarios when it comes to throwing the ball downfield. His ability to hit deep passes, 50% of completions on throws of 20 plus yards or more since 2019, ranked 6th best in college football. So, I mean, there's some really good things to be excited about with what you could be getting here. Extremely promising for his NFL projection that of what he could potentially elevate to. So I think there's a lot there. Manning in the chat. Mac Jones is going to be good for the good quarterback for the right team. I agree. It's got to be the right fit, and I think Mac Jones can be successful. 4, come on, this is a disgrace. Hey, well, let's get into the top 3 and see where we're at. Let's see what you think and
on it.
Yeah, we'll see where we're at here. So as far as just a couple last little things on Justin Fields, Ohio State quarterback, 630 rushing yards on scrambles since 2019 with 5 touchdowns. So he is a little bit more mobile in that respect. That's what we were saying. Mac kind of lacked a little bit there. So as far as a fit goes, I mean, who knows? Maybe this is a good fit for San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan's, rushing concepts, pre-snap motions, things along those lines. The way they use their fullback, San Francisco feels like a good fit for Fields potentially. So who knows where he'll end up? But I think that could be a decent spot for him.
I was about to say before you even said that while we rank him at 4, I think he'll be the 3rd quarterback off the board. I think that San Francisco is going to head in that direction. I think they're going to take Fields at 3. That's where the draft starts, in my opinion. It could be Fields, it could be Lance, it could be Mac Jones. Clearly, it's going to be a quarterback. But right now, I think it's Fields. I'd be shocked if it's Jones. I'd lead I think, Lance over Jones. But right now, I think Fields is the favorite to be taken with San Fran at 3. And I'm not saying that's the wrong pick. It's really close with, for me, 3 and 4. But for me, Fields just didn't flash quite enough for me.
If only we had the Raiders in the top 2 to screw up the draft for everybody else.
They take like Kyle Trask, who's like the 6th best quarterback at 2, and be like, he's got a good personality.
Or they would take the fastest wide receiver on the board.
Yep.
One of the 2. Number 3, coming in at number 3, Trey Lance. Now, Trey Lance, obviously a very dynamic quarterback for the Bison. He's definitely been a hot topic here, projected, to go pretty high in this. So, what are your thoughts here on Trey Lance and where you see him kind of ironing out when it comes to these top 10 picks?
Trey's clearly the biggest boom bust prospect of these five. He's a guy with immense talent, but he also played, at North Dakota State, FCS schools, not against a lot of talent. Never lost a game, but also they only played one game this past season due to COVID stuff with them. But he was out, just amazing in 2019. He's big. He's athletic. He ran for over 1,000 yards. He threw for a ton of yards. I think he only had like one pick. Mayday. I don't trust any North Dakota State QB anymore. Fair enough. No, that's fair. After seeing Wentz and what he did, that makes sense. But to me, Lance, just the reason he's in front of Fields for me is his upside and his ceiling is probably the highest, potentially, it's dangerous to say, but potentially the highest in this draft. He has the strongest arm, I think, of any of these five quarterbacks or any quarterback in the draft. His running ability is, like I said, he ran for over 1,000 yards in 2019. His running ability, while not on a level of like a Lamar Jackson, is really, really solid. To me, he kind of comps to like a Josh Allen. His accuracy struggles right now a little bit. He's not overly accurate. He throws a great deep ball, though. He loves to look downfield. He's not great at checking down. He needs to learn how to, take what's there for him a little bit. And he has a really small sample size. So there's a lot we don't know about him. He only played in like 19 games, I think, over the course of
17.
at North Dakota State.
17.
I'm sorry. 17. I made up 19 when I saw 2019 up here, so made that up, but I knew it was around that number, so it felt right to me. So he's definitely a project. He's definitely a guy that's going to take more time than any of these five guys to get to the level that he could be at. But once he reaches that, I've seen, I think Josh Allen. I've seen Ryan Tannehill as a comp as well. I think he's a little more athletic than Tannehill, although Tannehill was a wide receiver in college for his first 2 years at Texas A&M. So he's an athlete more than people realize. So I just like his overall potential. Now, but I'm a guy that loves to gamble, obviously. So That's why I rank him at 3, because while his ceiling is the highest, but his floor might be the lowest. So you may take this guy in the top 5 and regret it for forever.
Super risky.
There's a possibility that he's like a Paxton Lynch.
Yeah.
I've heard that comp as well. Like if it doesn't work out, he's Paxton Lynch. I don't think Paxton Lynch loves football. I think Trey Lance does. I like this guy a lot. I think where he fits, I think Atlanta at 4 makes a lot of sense to me. And I've heard rumors that Atlanta, if he's there, Atlanta's picking him. Like that's gonna happen. So which means potentially we have 4 quarterbacks taken in the first 4 picks of the draft. Which is insane, truly incredible. But quarterback is clearly the most important position for these teams, and if they find a guy they love, they should go after him.
As a Denver fan, Paxton Lynch nightmares are going to be recurring. I need to get my wife to give me some therapy for still some of those Paxton Lynch nightmares. So you mentioned 17 starts. In those 17 starts, Lance managed 131.5 passer rating on play action attempts with 19 touchdowns and just 1 interception. He also posted a 113.8% passer rating on non-play action passes with 11 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. So, as far as that goes, he can be very effective. There's people saying he's able to, alternate his arm angles and deliver off-platform throws, on the run, which is something that you see a lot from when it comes to, like a Patrick Mahomes type thing. I'm saying Patrick Mahomes more than you would on a typical stream.
You're comparing to the wrong player.
Maybe I am. But he's a bona fide running threat, that's for sure, having forced 49 missed tackles on 182 rushing attempts, gaining 913 of his 1,311 rushing yards after contact. So, man, he can break loose and he can hurt you by just causing missed tackles and things. So again, he could be a very lethal threat offensively. Someone you have to account for not only with his arm but with his legs. So, again, yeah, this could be a very volatile pick given the fact that he's only had 17 college starts. That's kind of the one that I'm kind of not so sure on, man. Like you like to have a larger sample size than 17, but I mean, he's putting up some crazy things, crazy numbers. So that's where we have Lance slated. Trey Lance could be big. So we'll see. Number 2, Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson, BYU. Now we have him at number 2 here. No college QB had a better touchdown to interception ratio on play action passes than Wilson. 20 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. His 12.6 yards per attempt on such passes. Third highest in college football, according to Pro Football Focus. Pairs really well with potentially the Jets here. Offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur. He's going to be there trying to make sure that they are getting their offense up and running. So I think that could be a decent fit here for the Jets if they are able to get a hold of him here at their pick.
Yeah, I love Zach Wilson. When all this started with who's this, number 2 quarterback, and we haven't said the number 1, so we'll just say the name, I guess. In this draft, there was always debate against Wilson and Lance and Fields, and everyone felt differently. I don't think Mac Jones at that time was in the discussion really. And I was sold on Zach Wilson. Watching Zach Wilson play, he's electric to me. He is fun to watch. Maybe that doesn't win games, but to me, he's the most fun quarterback of any of these 5 to watch because he can perform off platform. He can perform outside the pocket. When things break down is when he's at his best. That is why stylistically he reminds me more than any other quarterback in the last few years of a Patrick Mahomes.
And you called
Mahomes.
You called Patrick Mahomes when he was drafted. You saw the dynamic nature of what he brought to a football team.
I regret to this day that there wasn't someone videoing me when the Chiefs took Patrick Mahomes because I was freaking out with excitement. I was so pumped. Not that they took a quarterback because right then when everyone thought they're either taking Mahomes or Deshaun Watson, and I wanted Mahomes so badly. Watson has been better than I thought he would be. Granted, he's got some issues going on right now, but I was over the moon when they took Patrick Mahomes in that draft. So this guy, while I don't think he's at Mahomes level, he doesn't quite have the build. He's shorter like Mahomes. He's 6'2". He's not overly tall. He got beat up a little bit and had some injury concerns at BYU, which is concerning. He probably needs to put on some weight. He's at 210 right now. But as a thrower, he's really, really solid. He takes chances, which I like, but didn't throw. I mean, he threw 3 picks this year. He threw 33 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. So, and everyone's like, oh, well, he was playing against inferior competition. I'm like, okay, but he was also playing with inferior talent on his team. So I think I saw a line at some point where the spread for Zach Wilson in his games, if you average it out through the course of the season, was the same spread that Trevor Lawrence had at Clemson. Clearly, Trevor Lawrence played better competition than Zach Wilson did, but he also had better talent around him. So that's a really good judge to me is all right, what were the spreads of these games? Because that tells a lot on who's, how good is the talent around him based off of what he's playing against. So to me, Zach Wilson played phenomenal football this year. He made throws. Wow, those are real legit and real exciting. It's really hard for me not to put him at 1. I think the only reason he's not at 1 for us is it's a little more of a gamble. I think number 1 is a sure thing. I think number 1's gonna be at least really, really good, if not great. But Zach Wilson is a really, really great quarterback that I think it's pretty obvious at this point he's going to be a New York Jet, and which just adds to the plethora of young quarterbacks in the AFC, which is terrifying. All the young quarterbacks and all the young talented quarterbacks outside of a Kyler Murray are in the AFC right now.
AFC's stacking nice young quarterbacks. That's for sure. Wilson ranked 4th in college football last season with a 79, almost 80% completion percentage on quick passes, fewer than 2.5 seconds, and 5th with 9.1 yards per attempt on such throws. He also had the 3rd most touchdown passes, 16 total, and 4th highest completion percentage at 70% against the blitz, which, I mean, whenever you're getting those big pass rushes, you want to be able to make sure you can get plays downfield during those blitzes, and he's proven that he can do that against any defense. So those are things that, from a promising, 21-year-old kid coming out of BYU, man, he's got some serious upside. That's for sure. And then finally, Trevor Lawrence. I think this has been just kind of a foregone conclusion for the longest time. I mean, no one's going to debate the fact that he's been in this spot for a while. I mean, if the draft were, if you could probably take him right away and just say, hey, we got him, like they would have probably done that by now. So Trevor Lawrence slotted in at number 1, quarterback from Clemson.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be speaking of young quarterbacks that are elite in the AFC, adding another one, because Jacksonville is going to take Trevor Lawrence at 1. I don't think that anyone thinks otherwise. Urban Meyer, now the new head coach in Jacksonville, going to have Trevor Lawrence as his leader. Trevor Lawrence is as clean as a prospect as we've seen at the quarterback position since like an Andrew Luck, which is also the comp that's pretty obvious to compare to. He's comp to an Andrew Luck. He is athletic more so than you think. He can run, he can get outside the pocket, he can make plays. His arm strength is great, his accuracy is good. Like, he's really clean, and elite at everything he does. There's nothing he does poorly whatsoever. Can he work on some things? Of course, every quarterback can he, my problem is, like, it's almost too clean. I want a little more flair, a little more like crazy to him. Like,
yeah,
he's so clean and makes it look so easy that sometimes it looks like it's almost like, is he trying that hard? Is he like really like, does he love the game? But he's a national champion quarterback, so I think he probably does. This is a guy that's going to be really good for a really long time. His floor and ceiling aren't that separated. Like, his floor is, he's going to be really good. Like, there's no way he doesn't end up at some point being like a top 10 quarterback. Like, that would shock me. There's a point in his career where he's not a top 10 QB in the league. He looks like sunshine here from, obviously from Remember the Titans. So
sunshine.
Interesting look to him, but just not a lot of flaws in his game. He can learn a little bit on coverages and stuff like that, but he's just super clean, but doesn't have the flair that Zach Wilson does for me. So that's why, to me, it's kind of close. Although it's way easier to project Trevor Lawrence because he's a stud. Yeah.
So, I mean, you're right. He's clean. He's logged 200 snaps against the blitz over 3 seasons. Compiled 34 touchdown to 2 interception ratio against the blitz. I mean, he has a lot of the characteristics that you need for a shorter learning curve when it comes to that transfer of knowledge to the NFL. I think more so than a lot of these players. He's definitely just a complete package when it comes to what you're getting. You know what you're getting. He throws the quick passes. He throws the screens. Stuff that, a lot of NFL teams can utilize with a young quarterback. As far as those go, I mean, he is what you would want in the number 1 pick. He should be able to execute. As far as the Jags go, Cam Robinson at the left tackle, they kept him to make sure that Trevor Lawrence potentially has that really good, protection. Added Marvin Jones as a promising young receiver for Lawrence to come in and have some weapons to throw to. I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars have a couple weapons. We talked about this a little bit when we were, kind of going through, some of draft stuff from previous once this college football season ended and where some of these quarterbacks slotted. I mean, the Jags don't project to be a team void of talent. They're going to have some nice pieces to put around Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I mean they're still going to be bottom tier a little bit, but they got some pieces for sure, and it'll be interesting to see how quickly Trevor Lawrence adapts to the NFL game and is able to dominate. They have some wide receiver weapons that are really, really solid. They took Laviska Shenault in the second round last year out of Colorado. He's a really, really good piece. They got a couple wide receivers that are really, really good, so he'll have some weapons to throw too, and the offensive line is decent. So and they had the best rookie running back from Robinson from last year in the league. So he's got some pieces to play with, and we'll see what Urban Meyer can do as a coach in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. So that wraps up our quarterback rankings for our top 5. We have our corners here coming up here in a second. Before we jump into the corners, if you're here, thank you so much for being a part of this stream. Make sure you hit that follow button if you are here and you're not following already. It's completely free to do, and it helps us out. But more so, we just are happy that you're here watching with us and kind of getting all of your draft knowledge all seeped in so you're ready to go when we have our draft special coming up. But if you want to know when we're going live every single week, just hit that follow button. We multi-stream on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook right now, so we're just everywhere. So make sure you're hitting that follow button. Manning Fresh already hit that follow button early on. Thank you so much. Mayday's been active in the chat. All of our followers. I think from Facebook chat we had Jen who followed as well. So thank you all so much for being here. But let's dive in. Let's jump into our cornerback list and who we have here at number 5. And that's Asante Samuel Jr. You'll see that. That's a very familiar name, Asante Samuel. But, hey, out of Florida State, Asante Samuel Jr. coming in at number 5.
Yep. Obviously, his father played in the league. It doesn't seem like Asante Samuel's old enough to have a kid that's about to enter the NFL. Like, I didn't look up how old he was when he had Asante Samuel Jr., but it doesn't seem like obviously he was in the New England Patriots team and won some Super Bowls with them as a dominant corner for them. And now he's got this son who played really, really well at Florida State. I'll be honest with us, like number 5 was the hardest to figure out. I think the top 4 are pretty consistent on like where, at least who the top 4 are. 5 is kind of a crapshoot. I like the intangibles of Asante Samuel. He's aggressive. What I don't like and why he doesn't compare to some of the guys in front of him, he's not as tall or not as big as those other guys. He's 5'10". He's got short arms. So as an outside corner, that worries me a little on like the 50-50 jump balls, even if he's locked on that guy, like making plays on the ball against those bigger receivers. So he might end up being a slot guy because he has the feet and the quickness to play inside. And the slot's a really, really important position. So there's nothing wrong with that. But in a first round, you usually don't, try and look to go at that slot position. So his biggest deficiency to me is his size, but he's aggressive. He has, quick feet. His hips are pretty fluid. He didn't have, he had 3 picks in 2020 on a bad Florida State team. Not a ton of PBUs, pass breakups, with 6, but obviously has the genes to be successful, and that's why I think we ultimately made the decision to put him at 5 when there were a lot of other players you could potentially put there along with him, but we chose him.
Yeah, no. So he's fast. He's a feisty corner for sure. He has that number 1 kind of corner attitude when it comes to like, he'll own a lot of those 50-50 passes, and he has some pass breakups, here and there. He gives up a lot of receptions though. He's known to give up some receptions. He'll come up with a stop, but he'll also lose his share of battles trying to make something big happen. Kind of overshoots on some plays from what I've seen. Now, he has a lot of tools in his toolbox. So I think that, he could be a really solid piece for a team that's coming in. He has the name, obviously. Whether or not he can live up to that the same name as his pops, We'll see. We'll see. But I think you know, he might not be one of the strongest in there, but he'll battle, right? He'll bounce back from a bad play and he'll make a good one. So I think he could potentially be a good fit for a team, but definitely not on the same level as some of the guys ahead of him. Number 4, Greg Newsome II, coming in from Northwestern here. What do you got on him?
Yeah, obviously Northwestern had a great season last year, made the Big Ten championship against Ohio State. This guy was a 2-year starter at Northwestern, not a big-time recruit coming out. His biggest flaw, really, his injury. He missed 9 games in 2018 with an ankle injury, and 4 games due to an undisclosed injury in 2019. And then he actually got hurt in that Big Ten championship game and left with a groin injury. So the reason he's at 4, somewhat at least to me, is his injury history is concerning, but he has the body and build of a outside NFL corner. He's 6'1", 190. He has long arms. He has good feet. His hips move well. He's able to backpedal well, and he's able to move forward well to attack when the ball's coming his direction. His biggest weakness as far as on the field is probably his turnaround and long distance speed running down the field on a deep route. He's probably not as fast as you'd love him to be, but he's a really, really, really talented guy. I think these 4 guys are him, and the next 3 are clear. I think they're definitely first round picks. I'd be shocked if all 4 of these guys don't go in the first round. So when I nitpick him, it's because we have to. He's a really good player on a really good defense at Northwestern this past year. His pro day testing made him seem a little faster than he looks on tape to me. He clocked really fast, but this year's a little weird with all those pro day testings because they're not doing it at the combine, and it's not a consistent clock or the guy taking the time on it. So he's super talented. Gonna be, if he stays healthy, I think he's gonna be a number 1 corner for a team in the NFL on the right fit. But yeah, he falls in at number 4 for me, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, he's an impressive combination of size, smarts, speed. He has a little bit of everything. He might allow some catches, but he's great at coming up with a tackle to stop the plays in their tracks if he needs to. He doesn't give up much of anything downfield. He only played 17 games, but he made a presence felt in each one. 71 tackles, 20 broken up passes. So he's a playmaker. He attacks the ball. The biggest question for him is that he's never healthy. Honestly, he couldn't get through a college campaign. So if he can't get through a college campaign, what makes you think he's going to get through a 17-game regular season in the NFL? So that's the biggest worry I have. A cornerback on the sidelines doesn't help you. So that's the biggest thing I have. If he's on the field and if he can stay healthy, man, what a talent, right? But that's just one of those things that I would be cognizant of if I was picking a corner somewhere in the range where he's available. Obviously, you get value if he drops a little bit further based off of the injury bug and what people think of him. But if he can stay healthy, then that's a big thing. So we'll see what ends up happening with Greg Newsome.
My player comp actually there is, he reminds me actually, to get Denver fans involved, of a Bradley Roby. So not a guy that is gonna blow the doors off and be super elite, but nothing wrong with a Bradley Roby. He's been a really solid corner of the league. Maybe not dominant and elite, but really, really good.
Yeah. Number 3, Caleb Farley coming in, Virginia Tech corner, number 3.
Yeah, he's a big corner. He's 6'2", 207. That's really, really large for a corner. My player comp with him is kind of actually Byron Jones, who big corner, super athletic, played really well with Dallas at the early part of his career, and then signed last year with Miami and played really well there. So Farley has every trait you'd want. He's really, really quick, great burst on closing separation. His hips are great. He can drive on underneath routes. He's a little, lost in zone at time. He's a little too aggressive at time. He likes to in zone coverage stick with a man, or even in man coverage, he likes to read the quarterback and hop off, and maybe be too aggressive at time and leave his man before he should. Um, Reminds me of a Marcus Peters a litch bit in that, which there's nothing wrong with that. Marcus Peters um, has made a ton of plays and had a ton of picks in his career because he jumps routes and he leaves his man to read the quarterback. Uh, Caleb Farley is more athletic than him. Concern with Caleb Farley as well, though, is back issues. So he had a back problem. He actually opted out of this year. He had back surgery and recently. Um, the problem with back problems just don't go away. Like, it's not like someone is. Have you ever heard a guy say like, "Hey, I used to have back problems"?
No, they linger forever, and they
They're
get worse as you
always
get
there.
old. They get worse.
Yeah, and he's like this 22-year-old kid, and he's got these back issues. They're not going to get better. They're only going to get worse. So can he stay healthy? Can he play? He's a little off on his shuffle and back pedal. They look a little uncomfortable, but as an athlete, and his upside is probably higher. His ceiling is probably the highest of any corner in this league, or in this draft, I should say. Sorry. If he reaches his potential with his athletic traits, like, he's going to be the best corner to come out of this draft.
He's all around his measurables are everything you could want. He's big. He moves like a smallish, quick defensive back. He's fast enough to hang with, a lot of, pretty talented wide receivers, I think. He's been timed under 4.3. And best of all, he's just getting going. As far as just his upside, there's a lot there. You can throw him out there and tell him to push around some NFL receivers and keep up in coverage, and he'll be able to do that. Now, the little things, he opted out of the 2020 season, which I feel like was the right move. I mean, obviously, he was projected to be a high first-round pick, but there was COVID concerns with his family. As far as that goes, he could have used that time if he really needed to sharpen some of the things that he still needs to work on, which there's not really too much there to really work on, but those extra reps, that you can always get better, right? 19 broken up passes in 2 years, 56 tackles with 6 interceptions. That's pretty solid for a guy of his caliber. So I think as far as he goes, he might not be as quite the superstar on day one, but he's going to get there if he stays healthy. And there's no back issues, as mentioned. I think he can get to be that star, that superstar status over time. With the right coaches, with the right team, he'll be in a good spot. Number 2, J.C. Horn. Now, this is a name that, you might not typically see, above some of these others. Caleb Farley was one of the top 2. And so, sliding in J.C. Horn, what do you see with the South Carolina corner?
JC Horn for me is like a 1B. Like, he's not even a 2 for me. Like, it's really, really close. He might be, like, if he goes first at corner in the draft, it wouldn't shock me at all, and I wouldn't say that team made a mistake at all either. He averaged last year at South Carolina, he had 27.4 coverage snaps between receptions. So for every 27 snaps he had at corner, he averaged giving up 1 reception, which was number 1 in the country. Best percentage in the country. On passes he was targeted in, he only gave up 33% completion rate. So this is a guy that stat-wise is elite. Athlete-wise, he's super elite. He does everything well. There's not a lot. I mean, he's 6 foot, so he's a little smaller than our number 1 guy, but clearly long enough at 205 and built really, really well. Breaks up passes. He's not quite the downhill guy. He's a little labored once you get him in a downhill situation on a deep route, and he's a little late on closing on comeback routes. So those are the 2 things that he struggles with, but his ball skills as far as picking the ball off and attacking the ball are exceptional. He's going to be really, really good. He actually reminds me of like a poor man's Jalen Ramsey. So I'm not saying he's Jalen Ramsey, but he reminds me a little bit of him. That's the comp I have for him. Um, he's going to dominate. He's going to be a really, really good corner and number one corner for a team. And I'd be shocked if he's not taken within the top, I'd say like 18 picks.
Yeah, he's got the tools, the talent, and the look of an NFL starting corner. As far as just all the accolades that you just threw out there, yeah, he's great. He's, you want him to be enough to be physical, great frame, and the raw speed, cutting ability, handle anything, adjust well on the fly. He can do a lot of those things. He made 101 tackles in his 3 seasons at South Carolina. He broke up 23 passes. Excellent at getting physical when needed. He takes the smallest receivers and he plays like he's, like he takes it personally sometimes. It's crazy. He challenges those 50-50 balls. I would say, a couple things to look out for too is, when it comes to stopping the run, he'll beat up receivers all day long, but he's not going to necessarily line up to blast the ball carrier who, gets a full head of steam. He's a little bit undersized in that respect. So that might be a little bit of a liability in the run game. But, everything else you love about this kid. I think he has a lot of talent, a lot of tools, and he can definitely be a really, really solid addition. So anywhere he goes, he might take on that number one cornerback role right off the bat. So that's the kind of talent this kid has. And number 1, Patrick Surtain II, Alabama. Now, this is not a surprise here. A lot of people have had him at the top of their lists across the board here. Now, given all the quarterbacks taken in the first, maybe 4 or 5 picks, potentially, someone's going to be getting to the bottom end of that top 10 and getting a solid player here.
Yeah, let's just start with, he was a 3-year starter at Alabama. Nothing wrong with that. He was the number 1 overall corner recruit in the country when he came out of high school. Obviously has the bloodlines. Some of you are too young to remember Patrick Surtain. His father was an elite corner for the Miami Dolphins for a very, very long time. I actually remember in the latter part of his career, the Chiefs traded for him and gave up a 2nd-round pick, and he was really, really good for the Chiefs for like a year or 2, and then he kind of eventually that age caught up to him and it fizzled out. But this dude has everything you'd want. The biggest concern for me is, like, we've seen some stud corners from Alabama not really pan out quite to the level you think they would have in the NFL, and that concerns me because maybe it's just coaching, and it's such elite coaching they receive at Alabama. His athletic profile checks out. Everything he does checks out. He's a little handsy at times, which might get him in trouble, especially when it's away from the ball and it's like a scramble drill. He gets a little handsy when the quarterback leaves the pocket and he tries to grab a little too much. But other than that, like, he does everything well. He's an athlete. He backpedals. He cuts on the ball. His long distance speed is pretty good. His IQ is really, really good. So there's not really a weakness with Patrick Surtain. He's going to make some team really, really happy, and he could be the first defensive player off the board. I would actually, if I had to pick one player to be the first defensive player off the board, it'd probably be him. Granted, I think we're going to see offense heavy in the first 8-9 picks, where he might be the 10th pick in the draft and still be the first pick that's a defensive player, the 10th pick being the Dallas Cowboys, which I think Manning mentioned earlier that they should target him if he's available, which I agree. There's nothing wrong. Your parents are tan with Diggs, who they took in the 2nd round last year to match up in that secondary. 2 guys from Alabama that played together, and that'd be a nice fit for the Cowboys. We'll see what happens, but this guy's going to be really, really good.
You could put him anywhere in the secondary. He's going to do some big things. The size, the speed, the mentality, the technique. He has the ability to be a superstar right out the box. You throw him on the opposing star receiver, and you just take your chances. And that's how good he can be. As far as that goes, he was supposed to be, among the special of the Alabama recruits. He was just that when he recorded 116 tackles with 4 picks and 24 broken up passes. He's just everything you could want. Negative side, I'm being super nitpicky here. It's not going to be a lot here. This is like if I'm really trying to find something wrong with him. As fast as he is, he doesn't have that like extra gear sometimes when it comes to the speed that some of the other guys have in this class. That extra like lift when it comes to the speed. He also didn't pick off a whole lot of passes, which is kind of, an Alabama player. He came up with 4 in his career spread over the 3 years at his time at Alabama. But he made a lot of strong plays, and he's not always that has that spectacular interception highlight reel. But I mean, those are just like those are like little things. Those are the nitpicky things that I'm trying to find wrong with him. There's not a lot wrong with him. He has a lot of upside to be a multi-year Pro Bowl talent. And as far as that goes, I think he fits the bill. So that's where we're at with Patrick Surtain. So outside of that wraps up everything we had here for your quarterbacks and your corners for this draft coming up. So those are the top 5 of each. We're going to be bringing you another round on Sunday night. So we're going to be making sure we have a couple more positions covered. I think we might cover wide receiver and then maybe like a defensive end pass rush or something. Let us know in the chat what you guys want to see. But we're going offense and defense each time. We're going to be trying to get as many positions covered, the quality positions covered before the draft happens here soon, so that we can make sure you are up to date and knowledgeable on all the picks that are going to be happening, especially in the first round. So when you pop into our stream, you are on board with everything. You already have an idea who they are, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and you can debate with us whether or not they should have gone at this pick or that pick. Trades, it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. Scott and I have been like salivating for this.
I literally last night listened to an hour-long podcast from a podcast I had never listened to before that just covered offensive linemen for an hour in the draft.
Offensive linemen.
That's how excited I am for this draft. I'm covering it all. I got our fix on offensive linemen based off of several things, not just this one, but yeah, that's how excited I am for this draft, that I can listen to people talk about offensive linemen, not a sexy thing, for an hour long and have no issue with it.
Yeah. Speaking of just wrapping up the show, we have a lot coming up on the next show. So Sunday, we're going to be live again here in the Action Live. If you're here, make sure you're hitting that follow button so you know when we go live. It's usually 7:30 Mountain Time, give or take. But sometimes we're running a little bit late. Sometimes we're a little bit early. It depends on, what we have going on and what we're setting up for the stream. So if you have those alerts on your phone, whether you're Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube, make sure you have those all turned on so you know exactly when we're popping on and we're ready to go. We have our Mile High Spotlight coming up on Sunday. We have more position rankings for the NFL Draft. And just real quick before we wrap up, I want to check in on that Nuggets game. I said we would. Right now, the Nuggets are blowing up right now, 93-77 on the Miami Heat. Currently looking at the box score here, Michael Porter Jr. is doing what he should be doing. 9 of 11 field goals, 2 of 3 from 3, 9 rebounds, 22 points. Aaron Gordon, 13 points, 6 of 9 shooting, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. Jokic, 17, 10, and 4 rebounds away from his triple-double there. So, hey, everyone's showing up. Monte Morris, we were wondering what we were going to get out of him. Obviously it's a one-game sample size in the starting lineup, but 5 of 8, 1 for 2 from 3, 11 points. So, yeah, he's doing what he's got to do to fill in some holes there. Dozier and Green coming off the bench with double digits in 12 and 11 points for those two respectively. So, Nuggets holding their own since the aftermath of losing Jamal Murray. So hopefully they can continue to maintain this. It's third quarter, 1 minute left in the third. So they're still playing. I'm going to probably turn this, once we get on off the stream, I'm going to probably get that game rolling on my phone and watching that in bed here in a little bit. So, yeah, promising so far.
No, I love that. I do have a substantial bet actually on the Nuggets tonight. I feel like teams, when they hit a big injury, that first game they provide a lot of injury, and they're going to prove the world that like, hey, we're not affected by this injury. We're still really, really good. So I bet on the Nuggets. I think they were 4.5 tonight. Loved them at that. We'll see if they pull through on that. I think right now we're looking at 93-79, so a 14-point cushion. But Michael Porter Jr. is doing exactly like that's the most important thing. Is Michael Porter Jr. is sitting there at 9 of 11 and 2 of 3 from three.
That's
and
what you
9
need.
rebounds.
That's what you need.
Love that. Love that.
Now,
Will Barton is doing Will Barton things. He's 1 of 6, 3 points.
He needs to get better. He needs to show up. But by the way, if you're a betting person as well, obviously Scott had a little betting tidbit there. I have one. Try to get Michael Porter Jr. I have him tonight on one of my parlays, over 19.5 points. I thought that was super low based off of how many shots he was going to get. I paired him with a couple other picks on my parlay. But if you can get Michael Porter while he's still sub 20 points right now in any props, point props, take advantage of it because it's going to be going up from here on out. I'm telling you that right now. You're not going to see Michael Porter under 23.5 for very long. It's going to be going up to the moon. So take advantage of Michael Porter, his point totals. Keep an eye on those in the next couple days.
Like that.
Yeah. I mean, he was hovering at one point around like 16.5. Even as early as soon as like a week ago, he was only they were putting him at like 16.5. I was like, geez, I'll bet that every single day until that gets to like 23.
Yeah, and now he's gonna just put up points because he has to.
So, but thank you guys all for being here. Little betting nuggets at the end there, Scotty. I like that. But
did you mean to say the word nuggets with it?
You like that? I didn't actually, but now pun intended. I did mean to say that. Thank you guys. Thanks also for everyone who chimed in today. Deborah, Mayday, Manning Fresh. Thank you for the follow again. I know you probably went to bed, and it's I think everyone's kind of tired at the end of the day. But thank you guys all. Jen, thanks for following in Facebook chat, and we can't wait to see you here back in the lab on Sunday. So be good to yourselves. Have a great rest of your week, and we can't wait. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.